chapter clicked in to College Volleyball Weekly on Viral Volley Media. Now here's your host, Rob on mic.
All right, good day, everyone, and welcome to College Volleyball Weekly Men's Top 20 Week 14 recap. And is that right? Week 15. I can't even get it right, but we have a very special guest on screen. She's cohabitating the upper right-hand corner on my Zoom, but that is Nickie Sanlin. She's the director of everything. We were trying to figure out what her position title was. It's pretty much everything. But you'll see her on the sideline of McKendree Men's Volleyball. So, Nickie, it's great to have you on.
Oh, thanks, guys. Happy to be here. I listen every week, so now it's kind of fun to be back on or be on the show. So I'm in, ready.
Well, with that, we'll go counterclockwise on my screen. Theo Edwards of Cal State Northridge with the famous drink refrigerator and feeding trough for the entire athletics department. Brad Rostratter of UC La Jolla or San Diego, just above Black's Beach with a good break, coming at 4 to 6 foot today. Had to check. And then Jay Hosick of George Mason of the Mighty Patriots or the Mighty Jays. So with that, we're looking for a great episode again today, but I wanted to address something that happened this last week. And with that, I wanted to share with our viewers and listeners just my thoughts on what happened. And I'm deeply saddened by an event that occurred this last week between Theo's team and my team. A statement was made on the broadcast that was harmful and unacceptable by my broadcast partner. With that, there's no place in our society for words that can harm or threaten violence to others. So I wanted to share Charlie's statement with our listeners and viewers today. Charlie said, I'd like to publicly apologize for my comment on the UC Irvine versus CSUN broadcast, Thursday, April 9. Most importantly, I apologize to Jordan Lucas. I wholeheartedly regret my comment towards him. I take full accountability for my comment and the damage it may have caused. Violence should never be acceptable or tolerated. I've spent my life promoting the game of volleyball and regret any harm to the sport or the people that play it. I will learn from this and work to be better. And that's from Charlie Brand, my analyst on the broadcast last Thursday. And with that, I just want to say that Charlie admitted he was wrong. His apology was truly sincere, and he is remorseful for what he said. And any harm he has caused to anyone and everyone, most importantly, Jordan. Charlie has learned and is continuing to learn from this. Jordan, you are supported by many across the vast areas of influence that you're involved in. I mean, I've heard it. I've spoken to people, although I don't know you personally, but you're a very, very infectious personality that is well-loved. And that includes our volleyball community. So you're a gifted athlete and a deeply valued person. Continue doing what you're doing. Be joyful, be positive, and continue affecting all those around you. As imperfect human beings, we're all learning as we go. And a lot of us are still learning that we can always do better. So with that, I wanted to pass it all over to Theo, being that he too is part of it. And I know that he may have some things to add as well.
Yeah, I think well said, Rob. I think the first and foremost, I wanted to be just incredibly grateful for the amount of support and outreach that has come Jordan's way and to our program from fans, coaches, from other programs. I mean, everybody has just been unbelievable. And I think that in lieu of this situation and situations when these things happen, I feel like the Irvine's done a tremendous job about just owning it. And being incredibly transparent about where they stand and making sure that a student athlete like Jordan feels supported and being who they are and continuing to bring the energy that he brings on a daily basis. I think the volleyball community historically has been an incredible place for any and everybody to play this game that we all love. And I think that doesn't change today any different than it did on a Thursday night in Irvine. And so I think those words were said by Charlie. I've known him for a really, really long time. He is a good person. And I know that he didn't mean harm by it. But I'm grateful for the fact that he owned his mistake and is looking to improve and get better. And seeing the outcry and support for Jordan just reminds us all that we're in a great sport and that we're in a place where these student athletes are supported and they can be the best versions of themselves out on the floor. And I think Jordan felt that support this weekend and was reminded of that, as we all are reminded on it every single week. So incredibly grateful. And I think we can continue to be positive about where this sport is at and where it's moving. And I think that we can definitely be role models for a society that has historically been incredibly hard on the LGBTQ community. So yeah, that's all I got, Rob, but appreciate the statements and the support for Jordan.
Well, looking forward to moving forward, getting better, as you coaches like to say, 1% better every day. With this really taking the weekend, I didn't get to focus on a lot of news, but one thing I wanted to shift over to in positive light was Brad got his 50th win, and it was a big one at that. 50 wins for fourth-year head coach Brad Rothschild of UC San Diego. Big night in San Diego. Can you share a little bit about it, Brad?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Rob. And I think the biggest thing was it was a huge breakthrough for our team and for our guys Saturday night, to where, we've gone through a stretch of really 6 matches or so against Long Beach and Irvine and now Hawaii, where it's 3 really good teams, really strong opponents. And we felt like we played really well in a lot of those matches. Maybe not as much night 1 against Hawaii, but kind of throughout that time, we felt like we were getting better. And it's really frustrating from the coaching and the competing side when you're getting better and you're not getting the results or the wins that you'd like. But that's part of being in the Big West, and that's part of how our schedule lined up this year, where it was a absolute gauntlet here to finish the season out. So it was just really cool to see the guys stay the course and not waver throughout that. So I couldn't be more proud of them and their ability to respond and bounce back. And then just kind of overall in the match, Hawaii started with their backup setter. They started in the match, and then as the match progressed, they made some subs. They put their starting setter back in. They moved around some middles as well. And I thought throughout all of it, what we did so well was just our serving and passing, to where night 1 against Hawaii, they served us off the court. And that was really the biggest difference maker. And then night 2, we definitely didn't serve them off the court, but we served and passed a heck of a lot better. And it kept us in the match, and it gave us lots of opportunities to create and put stress on a really good team. And we were able to do that and get some touches and some blocks that were able to turn for points and create some opportunities for us. It was a fun night, really exciting, and just super proud of the team and super excited headed into another big week for us, being senior night, as we host Santa Barbara on Saturday night.
Yep. Well, I would figure we were going to go into the elephant in the room, which is all the coaches' teams' results this last week, but you've already started going. So you stole the Queen's top spot. I've been trying to make her the focus, the first one to comment on everything. But Brad, you ripped it from her. You did a J on her.
Wait a minute.
Hey, I'm a San Diego fan. Hey, I'm a San Diego fan. Don't make me get on my Volley Talk burner to cheering for Brad out here. I'm just saying.
How are you going to throw me into the bus? What did I do?
Hey, usually it's you, Jay, saying, "Oh, you took my player." So it's Brad taking Nickie's space. That's doing the J. So,
all right.
So Brad, big weekend. Obviously Hawaii coming in number 2 this last week, and night 1, it seemed like they could do no wrong. But Seba Sani came to the rescue along with Cam Worrell on night 2. And what was the big change you made?
Yeah, we switched out. Cam Worrell came in at setter for us, and we just felt like we needed a little bit more size to affect their attackers a little bit more. And, obviously we don't necessarily always make perfect decisions. But that was one of the ones where we at least felt like it had a bit of an impact in terms of how they were attacking for their outside hitters and led to us getting a few more blocks.
Yeah. And Seba Sani as well. All weekend, he's been your workhorse and delivered big on night 2, and he and Josh Ewart.
Yeah, both of them. Really the whole team has been making a lot of good strides, but obviously it shows a little bit more with him with the volume that he sees offensively. So he's making some really good strides. He's progressing as a player, progressing with his all-around game. Like, his service Eve has really taken some big strides and steps forward as well. So yeah, just really stoked for everyone's development.
Let's jump in, let the panelists. I'm sorry I kind of took over there, but hey, let's let you guys ask Brad some questions, what you saw during his matchup against Hawaii.
Nickie, go first.
All right. Yeah, Secret Brad. Of course, I'm a Secret Brad fan, but he has one of my favorite people on his staff. So I am always watching and supporting and just cheering him on.
And it's not Brad, one of the favorite people on his staff.
No, it's
Uh,
definitely not me.
it is definitely Brad. Brad's my karaoke partner, if you guys didn't know that, just so you're aware out here in the world. But no, Sani, what is it? Hold the phone, the kid's got a cannon. I am just so impressed every time I watch the growth of Brad's team and the things they do. So like I'm not gonna jump ahead too far, but I'm a little excited for the Big West tournament. I get yelled at home because I'm watching Jorge all the time, and my fiance is also sending Jorge texts via game, so I hope he's not looking at his watch. Um, but no, Sebasani, and then the trio of Ewer, Leo P, those guys really just doing work and having kind of an unconventional lineup is something fun to watch, something that we don't really see right now of, okay, we have a true opposite, we have a true left side, whatever. But no, kudos to you, Brad. I think that's pretty dope.
All right, Jay, Theo.
First of all, if I had the office space at UC San Diego, it would be right above the lineup at Blacks, and every day I would be going out getting a quick surf in before I go into the office. Just, throwing that out there because I'm jealous of you, Brad. I love you. I hate you. I love you. Secondly, I'd like
Love
to
you
know
too, Jay.
what song you guys choose to sing when you're doing karaoke.
Ooh.
I've got mine.
You
Mine
got him,
is
Jay.
always
You got him.
Mine is always Just a
I
Gigolo
will.
by
I'm
David Lee
trying to
Roth.
think. Was it Zombie? I think so.
Oh, you guys hit that little kick note at the end?
I think I
Zombie.
hit it. It's
You
fine.
guys do that?
If I'm gonna call my own personal karaoke song, Four Non-Blondes. What's up?
Oh, great call. Great call.
Four
Great
Non-Blondes.
As our guys know, I'm a wagon wheel guy through and through.
Yeah.
Wagon wheel. Okay. All right. Now the real deer is out. Thirdly, I too am excited about the Big West tournament, but Nickie, unfortunately, we're going to have to wait another 9 weeks because they're only in week 2 of the Big West play as of this moment. So it's unfortunate, but you're absolutely right. The Big West tournament, I know Northridge is at the bottom of the heap, but they're not an underdog. That whole conference is stacked top to bottom, and Seba has been doing a really, really nice job. What did he get on the first night? He had 371, 18 kills. I mean, come on night 2, that's ridiculously good. And the kid has gotten so much better under your tutelage this past year, and we all have seen that stuff. But listen, San Diego has always been one of those teams, especially if you think back, 15, 20 years ago when Kevin Ring was still the coach and they were beating teams like UCLA and they were beating teams like USC. They were a team that if you didn't pay attention to them, they just all of a sudden snuck up on you. And Brad's turned that from if you don't pay attention to us to you better pay attention to us all the time now because they're that good of a team. And so kudos to Brad and his crew. They're getting hot at the right moments, and that's what matters. And the Big West tournament is going to be a live one when we get around to it in about 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think to Jay's point, one of the things that's been so special about this group is that Brad they've just been building. They've been building every single week, and I think he alluded to this, but the Big West is so razor thin in terms of your margin for error, and they've lost some matches recently, but it really has not showed the growth that this team has made, and just awesome to see them finally get over the top and have a setting change in there, but Sebasani really just being consistent 2 nights in a row and leading the charge for that group. I thought this was one heck of a win, throwing another great wrench but really just building confidence for the Tritons as they move into the Big West championships. So that's really, really cool and going to be a really epic last couple of weeks here.
Dang, I just saw the blocking numbers for night 2. Did you just put up a brick wall at the arena, Brad? Because 3 solo stuffs, 24 block assists on the night for your team.
Yeah, it was a good blocking night for us for sure.
Wow.
I got a quick question for Theo. So Theo, we're going to talk about later. You're going out to Hawaii this weekend for your matches. Are you going to stay on the island for the week while you prepare for the Big West, or are you going to come home and then fly back out again?
So the actual tournament is in Irvine this year, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So
That's right. I forgot.
if it was on the island, we would be staying for sure. I think which Irvine did maybe a couple years ago. But yeah, unfortunately, we have to go to Hawaii just to come right back and go play at Irvine. So yeah.
Well, with that, let's go to our other elephant in the room participant, and that would be McKendree head coach or director of everything, Nickie Sanlin. Another 50-50 week for the team, but you talk about watching the Big West. I am telling you, the MIVA has become the place because it is insanity. Look at Jay's sign, go MIVA, right behind him.
I tweeted that earlier. I did.
So talk about your team's result this week, and we'll obviously talk a little more playoffs, but let's go more McKendree specific on this one.
Always Ohio State's a pretty tough opponent, and it came down the wire ultimately. They have some guys, Hinwood, Rodriguez, Shane Wetzel, that can move the ball around pretty well. Have some range behind the baseline. I feel like it's an old adage of like, you look at teams that have an MO and they always serve well. So I talked to our guys. I'm like, do you guys know who Nick Sturgeon is? And they're like, no, what? I'm like, oh, that's blasphemy right now. And every year it's like Hydra, that one head leaves and another head pops off. They have Jasinski back there that can, hit probably 75 plus. And you're defending it, you're not receiving it. I would consider our team overall a pretty good reception and defense team. And that's what it came down to at the end of, small margins. We lost 13-15 in set 5, and every statistical category we succeeded at, and small margins in set 5. That's all I wish I could have back. It's like, I think it was 9-11, 8-9, something like that. But Bryce Wetchen, another great weekend. The young man started off a little slow at the beginning of MIVA play, but now here we are, and he was 19, almost 20 kills this weekend.
Yeah. 20 kills and hit 452 that night.
Yep. I think he hit 632 in first ball. Someone that has really bought into what we're doing, and it's really nice to see that we don't just have one or two guys that can carry some weight. We have Tripp on any given night, Sam on any given night, Wetchen coming through, Nate from the baseline distributing the offense, Yachty just carrying us reception-wise. But you know what? But luckily, I won't jump too far ahead. We get to see them at home, thankfully, one more time this Saturday. So good to the guys. But I also want to give a shout out to NKU. They have taken Lewis to 5. They got their 2 first conference wins this weekend. And I was having that conversation with Jim after the match of their kids are tough. Former year 1 program, I get it. You want to fight and battle. They have some gusto, to say the least, and have some pretty nice pieces in Blair, Griffin Wheatley. Those guys can score, and they pulled their lid from our last match as their 0-2, and Diaz did amazing. So I want to give a shout out to those guys. If I know how year 1 hard is, and they pursued, they did it. They pushed us on our senior night. Didn't make it easy. So that was kind of a week for us.
Yep. All right, we'll let the other panelists jump in. I'm just gonna be quiet the rest of the way.
What did you say? What Jen hit the first night in first ball?
632.
632. That is what we officially call in the business redonkulous. That's pretty darn good. Here's the best part about Nickie's matches on the weekend. I don't feel her pain on the 15-13 loss and leading in every stat, because I was on the opposite side of that actually from our match this weekend, which I'll get to later. But there is no match that is safe. I mean, I know Ball State will probably handle Northern Kentucky, but Kentucky's going to come in there and give them everything they got. And everybody else, I believe, has split in their season series that is on the slate for that weekend, this weekend coming up in the MIVA series. So as good or bad as it is, I think at this point, it's all about just picking up the pieces and following any momentum that you have built in the past weeks or two, and just carrying that into the tournament. And I think home match advantage might play into some hands here of teams that walk away feeling successful. But holy smokes, what a good tournament coming up, but just speaks volumes about how good the MIVA was this year.
I'll piggyback on that. Like, we got our first win in Covelli this year. First win. We've traded some wins and losses over the past couple of years, but the last time we won at Ohio State was in St. John. And that's why I was like, all right, Lindenwood, shout out. Thank you. Great work this week to get home court advantage. And that's still slim margins, slim margins of being at home, being on the road and trying to fight in battle. But I'm just happy that we're here.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else on the panel?
Yeah, I just want to give a huge shout out to Flater, man. I think you look across the board at what that guy has been able to do just week in and week out. He's running a tremendous offense and keeps his hitters involved, but has really figured out how to win. And you look at this match specifically, and I've heard coaches many times argue the fact that playing 15 in that fifth set really doesn't do it justice in terms of finding the team that is the best team to win. McKendree outplayed them in almost every statistical category. She alluded to it. I mean, they outhit them, outblocked them, outdug them, and really just played a phenomenal match and just lost the race to 15 at the end. But Flater's doing a tremendous job. Nickie's doing a tremendous job. This team is super, super dangerous, and the MIVA is madness, as we all assumed. So it's fantastic.
I appreciate that. Fun fact, I think he's the second in digs in our conference. Just sheer defensive minded, fearless to a point, guy. He's really bought in after this summer of the tempo that we're trying to run and how fast we're trying to go. I think I listened to a couple of weeks ago. I think Jay was talking about fourth tempo. There's a point in time I'm like, oh, somebody's already in the air on that go ball. All right, well, we're here. I didn't teach that, but we're hyped up. But Flair's doing an excellent job. I can't say enough about him and all these guys, and I make sure that they understand that this is a collective. This is a team collective. It's not so-and-so in the Bearcats. It's Slater and the Bearcats tonight. Then it's Wetchen and the Bearcats tomorrow. Then it's Tripp and the Bearcats this day. Then Lively. Then, there's something like that. And I think that's what makes this group pretty special. And we've been that way for a while as a program. So it's cool to see, tough weekends that we come out on top, bottom, whatever, fighting. They punched back on Saturday. I'll say that.
For sure. I think, to me, there's two things in this match. You got the battle of the opposites. You got Wetchen, who hit 632 in first ball. And then I was like, oh, I wonder what Wetzel did, because he obviously had a pretty great night, too.
Great night.
He hit 591 in first ball. So, left side blockers. Let's get out on those guys. Come on. They're going off quite a bit in serve receive. And then I thought really the big difference was just the serving from Ohio State, right? And just the ability to put pressure and really what it looks like. You got Chikinski, 13% ace. Henwood, 10% ace. Hurley, 17% ace. And then Wetzel, 26% ace. And really where that makes nightmares for coaches is when you have four servers like that is, you can set up your rotation to be in a certain spot for maybe one, maybe two of those servers. But when they got four servers who can go back and rip it like that, it's really hard to make sure your libero's in area 6, or maybe your opposite can step in and pass the sliver of the court in row 1 or row 3 or row 4 in those spots when you have four servers who can bring the heat like that. I think in the fifth set, I think it was 8 to 9 or so. Yeah. And I think it was Hurley went back and tagged the end line in the seam, and it was called out, and then a challenge overturned it to where that ends up being the difference pretty quickly in a fifth set match. But the volleyball was really, really, really even and back and forth. And it was just that service pressure, and especially with Ohio State, sometimes they die with the service pressure, and it ended up helping them here in that fifth set.
That's definitely it.
Excellent breakdown. And as you guys were jabbering coachy talk, I was trying to be the fan guy. I go, what are they talking about? But I ended up looking up the setters in the MIVA. If you look at the nation's top 6, 3 of those are out of the MIVA. Zach Solomon, Lindenwood, Daniel Henwood Rodriguez at 5, and Nathan Flater at 6, all averaging over right around 10.3 assists per set. So there's some good offenses being run, and part of why these guys are thriving offensively. When you got a big tank like Shane Wetzel, Wetchett, whoever, Hachinsky, you've got a good ball coming your way. So a talented crew of setters in the MIVA. And I say that as
Rob, I'm surprised the Ball State setter's not in there. Machado is not in that mix too.
Well, he's at 12. I'm just saying top 6. So, but I mean, that's an even bigger statement in the nation that these guys are really thriving. And giving you some really powerful offenses, and that's what's making the Mivas so fun to watch this year.
It's giving me a lot of heartburn. I'll say that. It's fun to watch.
A little white you got going on there, the
Yeah,
hair
it's
there.
tucked in. It's tucked in somewhere.
We all got it now. So, anything else on McKendree and the Bearcats? We move on. Who should we go? East or west? Let's go to Jay, because he's gonna be coming up on a big week. But we're gonna talk about it in a little bit. But your last week, how'd it go for the Mighty Patriots?
Yeah, well, unlike Nickie Sanlin, I am a jack of all trades, but master of none. And so I have a lot of titles too. We had a big weekend. My boy Sam Schweisky brought his Princeton Tigers down. It was our senior weekend. And we're currently in second place in the EIVA. And we knew that was going to be a big weekend for a number of reasons, but really mostly it was just about trying to carry momentum for the rest of the way. We have 2 losses in the conference. NJIT has 3, Penn State has 0. And we knew that if we won both matches on Friday and Saturday, that we put ourselves in a really good position going into Penn State next weekend, at least for the time being. And I was really paying attention to the Charleston NJIT match because Charleston has been historically a split team where they go one night losing and the next night winning. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Friday night, we took care of business in 4 and felt pretty good about going into Saturday. It was senior night. We're celebrating 4 guys that are moving on to bigger and better things. And we went into that match, and I'll be honest with you, it was a 5-set, 2 hours and 40 minutes total. It felt like a heavyweight prize fight. I told both Joe and Sam this after the match. I've never seen a team scrap for points as much as Princeton did. And I know they're last place in the conference, and everybody's going to say, oh, well, Princeton's not that good. You're fooling yourself. Princeton's pretty darn good. Yeah, they don't have Nero and they don't have Wedbush. They still have a lot of other guys that can do things. And they gave us everything they've got, and they led in a lot of the categories that mattered, except the W at the end. And we went on to win 15-13 in the 5th. And I was exhausted. I felt every emotion in the spectrum, from highs to lows to in-betweens. And I looked at my guys, and granted, they were gassed, but we've been really, really well conditioned this year. And so I think that difference in how we felt physically really gave us that edge going into that 5th set because we were not as tired. But we were hitting balls that against any other team we play would be on the ground and it wouldn't be a question. These guys were running into the stands. They're running, jumping up the back walls. They're flailing around. They're closing their eyes and sticking a hand up, and they're getting digs. And my guys at one point, I called the timeout, and they're like, man, what do we got to do to put a ball down? I said, guys, you're not doing anything wrong. They're just playing their asses off. And that's okay, because this is an opportunity for you to see, because if you want to win a conference title, this is the kind of match that you're going to have to beat. You have to beat a team like this who's just fighting for their lives. So it was a great opportunity for them there. So really, really happy about the way our guys played. I thought Aiden Welton had a good weekend. Evangelista had a good weekend. Steph Kins had a good weekend. But I think our middles are finally starting to come back into play here again, which is good, especially going to this weekend. I like the heart that my guys are playing with this year. We had 20 wins now for the first time in 16 years or so in a season. That's always fun. And we go into next weekend with being in our own, we control our own destiny. If we win both matches, we win the regular season and host. If we lose one, then Penn State's gonna win it and they're gonna host. And then NJIT and us are really fighting for that next spot down. And so there's a lot of implications. And it's also Pav's last regular home season matches of his career. So I'm honored to be a part of that in some small way. But if you saw my Facebook post, is my last chance as the grasshopper to snatch the pebble out of the master's hand. So we're going to do our best to get that. But I was just really proud of the way my guys played. And on a separate note, on the EIVA, Sacred Heart, which is also towards the bottom of the conference, people overlooked them. They took Penn State to 5 both nights, and they were up 2-1, I believe, in both of those nights. And Sacred Heart is kind of finding their way, and they're figuring some things out. But man, oh man, they almost pulled that out twice. And so there's some chinks in the armor. We're going to see if we can take advantage of it. But in the meantime, just give my guys a day off, let them get some rest, and we'll get ready to battle at it this weekend.
Excellent. All right, panelists, jump in on the Mighty Patriots.
Go ahead, Nickie.
I am looking at the stats right now, and the fact that Aiden Wilton over the weekend had almost 90 swings, just taking hacks. That's what watching this kid from club to college, and and this is why I consider myself a fan. I love listening to the show, is watching them transform from these like skinny, I think I'm talented, but I be kids, to what was it, like 32 something on 88 this weekend, just carrying a load, and Jay just having to figure it out the season after a major injury. And I just can't say enough right now. But I'm not going to jump ahead because I want to see this magic in this upcoming weekend. I think that's my biggest excitement of, let's 2-0, 1-1, 2-0, a little excitement. And is it EIVA madness? EIVA excitement? What's the alliteration right now? I don't know, but it's impressive when you see kids over a weekend have the ability to sustain. And as you mentioned, Steph Kins coming in, passing dots on the line right now and not giving up. But hey, take more hacks, especially this weekend.
Yeah.
Bring Eva Insanity. How about that? It just kind of sounds the same. It has a good flow.
The EI Evangelista is what it is. No, I think the guy that I'd like to mention here is also Herbert, because the efficiency and consistency of that guy, not just from an attacking perspective, but also from a server seed perspective. I think you look at Princeton all year, passing has kind of been their Achilles heel quite a bit. They've got the athletes on the pins, and they'll put you in some really tough situations on the end line. But I thought Jay and his crew did a fantastic job just dealing with the serving and staying in system. I mean, they definitely won the serve and pass game for this weekend, and that ended up being kind of the difference. But Herbert was a big part of that. I mean, on the volumetrics 3-point scale, passing a 2.42, while taking 40 swings and killing 21 of them, killing the ball at over 51% on the pin and passing at that level, pretty damn legit. So big ups to that guy. And I think Jay, if I'm wrong, you guys have won 14 out of the last 15.
Yep. And still not ranked.
That is pretty darn impressive. And I have a hunch you will be back in the rankings this week.
It makes you feel better. You got RV in front of your name.
Listen, I shudder to think. I know the other coaches on this screen that are in the voter panel for the top 20, and everybody's got their things that they do with. But there are some coaches out there that I know that I look at their things and I'm like, whatever. Like, it's not that big of a deal. But it's just funny to me. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think for me, and Jay brought it up, but like we found out firsthand that Princeton's a good team. They're battling, and they took care of us when they came out to Southern California and beat us in 5. So maybe I'm still having some like flashbacks to that, but I just remember Nolan Kelly digging just about everything from all of our guys, and then Ryan Vina, who is a converted middle playing on the right for them, defensively, converted middle now playing opposite. Over the course of the 9 sets over this weekend, had 29 digs for a converted middle playing opposite. That's pretty impressive. And I think just overall, like statistically, apart from the passing, almost dead even in almost every single category. I think the big difference was just how many swing opportunities that Jay and the Patriots were able to get, where they hit about 30 balls more than Princeton, and over time, if you're killing the ball 40% of the time and you get 30 more swings, that's going to make a big difference. That's about 12 more points there throughout the course of a weekend. So that makes a huge difference into determining who's going to come out on top. But yes, Princeton's defense continues to really excel and frustrate teams. And unfortunately, it hasn't led to results for them, especially in the IBA play. And then Steph Kins continues to just be a stud in serve receive. And I think I've mentioned it almost every week, but he's just so solid, so steady, so even keel in serve receive. It's fun to see Jay's team develop. And And like I've been saying, like we got George Mason, you got Loyola, like the teams that can pass really well, they're going to be really scary when you see them, and it's a winner take all match, and you got to advance. So if you can be good in first contact, you're in the mix constantly.
Excellent. Well, Brad, I just want to point out the loss to Princeton was because you gave up too much of your game match plan to Sam, who happened to be on the show that same morning. Remember that? You're like, oh, here you go. Oh, here you go. And Sam took advantage of it. You can't you put it past the smart guys.
You know what, Rob? That sounds like me to give way more information leading up to a matchup and not trying to compete or anything. That tracks.
All right. Anything else on the Patriots? Okay, well, let's move westward, and I'll let Theo take over from here. The another Big West matchup.
Yeah, another tough one, but also just some really exciting volleyball. I mean, we on Thursday night we were at Irvine, and got to get our typical selfie, Rob, right before the match, which I thought was fantastic. And I feel like it's always nice to be in the gym with you and share thoughts. And you know, I see you every single week on the podcast, but being in person is just a different experience, man. Just a different experience. So, but anyways, yeah, the volleyball was really fantastic. I thought we played incredibly well at Irvine. I think at some point we were I think it was tied 1-1 in set 3. We had a nice lead. I think we were up 22-20. And you know, the group that we have on the floor right now is very young, very inexperienced, incredibly high ceilings. And there's some moments where we're doing some things that are really, really impressive. And there are some moments where I am impressed that we could make mistakes at that level. So it's a lot of hit and miss, a lot of back and forth, but a lot of growth that we're watching, which I think is really, really fun and exciting. Irvine is a really impressive team. They're playing some really, really great volleyball. You know, I think from Darcy and the level of experience and consistency, the athleticism in the middles between Clark and Goss, and then Jokanovic being who he is and the impact that he's already had in the Big West has been just absolutely tremendous. And then Costi, you got to give Costi a lot of love, man. I think it's very rare that you see a setter of his caliber and consistency, not just the way that he runs the offense, but his poise on the court. You know, I think we've talked about this many times, his consistency from the serving, but from the service end line, but really just as a young player, he looks like he has been doing it for a really, really long time. It almost as if he was raised in the environment. I mean, it is it's really, really impressive, man. And you know, in night 2, I thought we actually played better through certain stretches. I think we had like a 10-3 or 10-4 lead in the first set. Kind of got an early jump on them. But Irvine's just really, really consistent, and the serving was even better on night 2 than it was on night 1. And they got the better of us. But I thought Jalen played really well. I thought Grayson Albers was pretty dominant at the net. Just super, super efficient. A guy who's been working on his craft. He's actually a pin convert and moved to the middle after we had some significant injuries early in the year, as you guys know. But a good weekend for us, a growth moment. But the Big West is a tough place to play, and Irvine is humming right now.
All right, panelists, jump in. Or Nickie, we're going to Nickie. She's always the first tab.
I want to know what it is about the Big West and about people changing positions, because I give Neff a hard time about, you see this obscure kid on court 119 that no one's ever heard of before, and I'm going to turn him into something amazing. And watching Cam Costi run an offense like a veteran setter is pretty awesome. I had the pleasure, it is my privilege, if I had the pleasure of working with Jalen this summer, and to watch him continue to mature and carry this load of just sheer work, especially without Donovan Constable, who was a huge part of that, and the Doffner setter, man. What are you doing? This is why I'm talking about the Big West, because you find kids, I'm not going to say not out of anywhere because they're still especially talented, but finding young men that say, you know what, I'm going to do what you ask me to by any means necessary, and I'm going to try my best to get it done. It's pretty amazing, Theo. And as you know, I am a fan of the show. I'm going to keep saying it just to put a plug in there. So you invite me back, hopefully. But
Dan,
I,
who? No, I was
hey,
just kidding, Dan.
Sorry, Dan. I'm taking over next time. But no, it's fun to watch. It's really fun to watch. It's fun to watch your team compete. It's fun to watch Jalen in particular because that's uh, a God-given talent. You can't train for that. You can't jump that. What does he touch like 13.5, 13.6,
Jay
something where?
usually tracks it.
Okay.
Jay, you have those numbers, right?
14 feet last time I checked, and
Okay.
it'll probably go to 15 by the time the show's over. So
Okay, just making sure. But it's fun to watch, and again, as I mentioned, I'm excited for the Big West tournament because you can ruin some standings here this weekend, and that's what I'm looking forward to. This is where it's at, and like I said, I'm not going to jump ahead, but kudos to you, coach, to keep those kids going and keep them engaged.
Appreciate that, Nickie.
yeah, I remember being at when we used to call them the Junior Olympics, and you'd see Niffin out in the parking lot for the Flight 32 courts, and he'd be watching some kid, and we're all going, "What are you doing?" Like, maybe he's related to me. He's like, "No, I see this kid. He could be good." Next thing you know, he's All American. Niff sees those little gems. He's always been known for that. So you nailed it right on the head there, Nickie. I feel Theo's pain with having a young team making dumb mistakes and not figuring it all out from the get-go because they're just good players, right? And it reminds me of when I first took over here at George Mason, my assistant at the time, about midway through the fall semester, he goes, "Coach, we gotta get better at this one aspect of the game." And I looked at him and I go, "Coach, we gotta learn how to play pepper. We don't even know how to do that very well." And it worked out pretty well that year for us. But that's the thing about Theo's team, is that even though they are younger, he's still got some veterans on that team, obviously, but he's got a young crew. When you get, beat up a little bit here and there in your first year or two, you start to learn, like, oh, this is what it looks and feels like. And then that's the team that's the super dangerous one moving down the line. And then that's, Theo's built that program, obviously from the prior head coach that he not only played for, but worked for, but now he's putting his own stamp on it. And so it does not, I don't think it's anything bad at all. Because again, the Big West is going to be nasty. And it's going to be somebody sneaking up on somebody and stealing one, picking them off. And I'm telling you, even though they're in last place, they're not in last place. They're not by a long shot. Who's in first? Hawaii. If I'm Hawaii, I don't want to see you. If I'm Long Beach, I don't want to see you. You're the last person I want to see in that thing. So, yeah, the result is the result. I think the thing for Irvine is their middle blocker duo is they're touching 14 feet, for Christ's sakes. They're really good, and they're up in the air early, which causes your defense. Your middles have to make decisions. You got to take some chances on some schemes. And if you start committing too much and the starter starts recognizing that, and then all of a sudden your pins are one-on-one, I mean, that's the danger of having a good middle, but B, a middle that hits really high and really quick. Yeah, that's one of Irvine's strong suits this year.
Yeah, I think for me, it's Micah Goss really kind of is starting to find his stride, where he was amazing all season last year, and still playing really well this year. But I think offensively really took a big jump forward, and maybe it's a connection thing, maybe it's a systematic thing, maybe it was something in the scouting report against Northridge. But yeah, that really stood out to me, is just seeing him hit 438 and get 16 balls over the course of the weekend, where he was a little less prevalent in their offense earlier on in Big West play. And then on Theo's side, you got Grayson Albers continues to be a dominant and attacking the ball, getting on it so quick, getting on that ball really, really fast. And yeah, the minus tempo quick attack for sure. And then you got, we talk about the Doffner setting, but we got Doffner playing on the left too, as a freshman, getting a lot of great experience in some high level matches and really kind of holding his own. Definitely not perfect, but battling and grinding and fighting off some really tough serves, taking some really good
Owen Doffner, for our viewers and listeners, is the setter.
Sorry, yeah.
Doffner is the outside. He doesn't have split personality or anything. Just out there.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah. But yeah, just I think those reps and that experience for him is going to pay off big time, whether it be, this week out in Hawaii, next week in the tournament, or even just somewhere down the road over the course of what's going to be a really strong career for him at the Ridge.
Yep. I was going to add a few things. Actually, got one of them, Brad. First of all, Grayson Albers, redshirt freshman middle, great player, great person. Came up before the match, introduced himself since we caught him on screen, grabbing some food out of Theo's fridge right over his shoulder there. But definitely a great kid, a great career in front of him. Such a solid server and a great middle. Secondly, when Theo put in Jordan Lucas in that second set, I had a flashback to the Jordan Lucas at USC because it was happening. He was putting every ball away. The night he scored 30 points against the Trojans, and the same offensive threat from the front and back row was happening. He was scrapping for so many balls, like with these acrobatic dives and saves, and you could see the momentum shifting the Matadors' way. As Theo was saying, it's just those points, those mental lapses at those key points, but it is scary to see a dialed-in team with a little more maturity for the Matadors, which great future for Theo, just, right now going through the bumps. But, he is 2 points, literally 2 points away from some big upsets every single match. And the Big West, there isn't a team that went into this last weekend that was sub 500. That should be telling in itself. You could be over, but it doesn't tell the whole story. And they were taking out big teams in the non-conference play.
But here's the reason why Theo's team is so dangerous now, even though we know the future is going to be dangerous. The reason why they're dangerous now, even though they may not be winning, they're bought in. They're fighting for each other. It's a good team, right? And Northridge, Theo and I have talked about this before. His program and my program are very similar in the sense that we may not be getting the absolute bluest of blue chip kids that the UCLAs and the USCs and Hawaiis are getting, but we get those kids that have a chip on their shoulder. And when they buy into what you're doing and they're fighting, I'll take those kids 10 days out of 10 days, any day of the week.
Yeah. The last piece I wanted to add was you were talking about Costi. And of course, on the broadcast, I'm mentioning the history. Costi's dad was a legend at UC Santa Barbara as a player, like Eric Fonomoana and Todd Rogers. And I get a text on the broadcast, hey, dude, they have golds. It was John Costi. He goes, how do you put me in that mix of people? But it's it's cool seeing the skills transfer because Costi is not a setter. He was supposed to be an outside, a utility guy, but because of injuries that all you coaches are familiar with, he's had to adjust on the fly. He had to make changes in your lineups and go with what was available, and he's really stepped in well.
Well, that goes to show the training that his club and high school teams did with him, because you don't just walk into a D1 program of Irvine's caliber as a non-setter and be like, hey, I'm just going to set this program to be top 5 in the country. Yeah, that I know Nif's good. Nif, I'm not hating on you, but that's a tribute to his coaches when he was younger, because they made him do everything. And then when he got to that part, he was like, okay, I'm training as an outside, but now he's getting the training at the highest levels, and he has the skills because he built them when he was younger. So I give kudos to
well, if you ask Cam, he'd be the first one to tell you, although he hit through a lot of club, he was always a setter. And he was always trained in that spot. And so similar to my setter, Owen Doffner, when you have a guy that's your biggest player or one of your tallest players who's super physical and has a decent arm, Owen swung for most of his high school career as well. And so it's tough to not utilize that guy to score points for you. And then on the back end, maybe they're training as a setter or doing some other things. But to Jay's point, it's a testament to the work that he put in prior to getting there for sure.
And wasn't Taylor Averill a setter when he went to UC Irvine and then became a middle blocker when he went to Hawaii? I mean, that's the most recent one I can think of. There's all kinds of examples.
Yeah, a little more detail on it was on Beta Bay 17s where Cameron Costi played. There was 3 setters on that roster. One was Sebastian Daste, who's at Princeton. I don't remember off the top of my head where the other one, who he was or where he's at now, but Cameron basically was the odd man out most of the time, and because he had such a great arm and such a great serve, he would end up playing some outside. So there was 3 setters, and then he had a lot of success one tournament, and then kind of just ended up hitting more throughout club and throughout high school, and where it was like he was kind of always a setter up until that point, and then being a coach's son and just doing whatever the team needed to fill in. And you see it again with that Irvine, where maybe he was prepped to hit a little bit more, according to Rob, but now the team needs him setting, and he's able to fill into that role without skipping a beat.
So one day we should do a segment where it's what team would be the most dangerous if they were all descendants of coaches, and we can come up with a lineup of some pretty good kids over the years. There's a off the top of the head, Loy Ball that comes to mind. There's so many others.
Kavika.
Kid. Yeah, there's so many kids. Milan Zarkovich's kid. I mean, there's just all kinds of them.
Yoders.
So, yeah, it's stupid. Stupid. Doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah, it's crazy. In our Elephant in the Room segment, we are already in an hour. We haven't even talked about the other matches that we could jump into. So I wanted to throw out to Nickie, of course. Let's pick a non-Elephant in the Room match that you wanted to jump on.
I'm gonna go back in and dive into Brad. I am just so impressed. I think I wrote down like Sebasani, like if my iPad kind of shut down over like the course of 2 days, even though they lost night one, was like 29-7 on 54, hitting 400. I love, and when I mentioned the Big West I love it being unconventional, because Brad, you're in that category of like you have the three outsides, one's an opposite, it's an opposite, and these kids are just here to play ball and figure it out. I just think that's super impressive. Hawaii's still an amazing team, and I know Tread was in and out, but that is, in the words of your assistant, pool play doesn't matter, everybody. Everybody beats everybody, and we are coming down to the wire, and having such a win to take into the next week, I think that's an amazing thing. And that's, Theo, Brad, you're welcome. There we go. It's a great thing for that. But no, Sebasani really coming through. I could talk about the rest of the group, but that was impressive to see a performance like that on night two.
All right. Other matches that we can jump on beyond UCSD in Hawaii. Oh, Theo's looking at this.
I've got three, but I'll let the other two
There's
go.
a few good ones to talk about. Go ahead, Jay.
I got one more. I'm just giving a good shout out.
All right, yeah, please do.
Lindenwood, Ohio State. Tendy coming back from injury.
Tendy.
Yes, Brendan Luthane, for you guys that don't know.
I'm like, Tendy.
Yeah.
I was like, who? Okay.
Chicken tenders.
Coming back from injury, I know they're a conference opponent and I guess so-called rival, but the fact that kid's super talented, I guess you would say, in the words of, I think Jay, you just said it, of finding kids that'll just play hard. He's got some gusto, he's got some fire in the tank, and to say like, this is my senior year, I'm not missing this, let's get it going, and to come back and get a little tick last weekend at versus Loyola, and then having I think he hit like 270 or 280 on the weekend, and a good win for them, because again, Meva Madness is all over the place, but kudos to him, because I know he got hurt in our match way back, and I was like, I hope to see you at the end playing good ball. You don't want to see a kid's season end like that, and I'm happy for him. So shout out right there.
Yep, good call. Brendan Luthane, what a comeback from injury. I mean, he played a little bit last weekend, but man, he came out big time again. He's ready for postseason, that's for sure.
Yep. I'll there's three of them I want to mention, but I'm only going to mention the one because I'm sure the other two guys will mention those. How about Lewis over Ball State? It's a big win there for Coach Friend. Some random hack coach that we brought on here a few times that some old guy. But Cam Hoying, 21 kills, 390, beating Ball State. And I think it was at Ball State. If I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
it was their first loss at Worthing Arena.
That's a humongous win. And that is a massive momentum carrier for moving into the MIVA playoffs this week. So kudos to Dan and his crew going into the Cardinal Pyramid, if you will, the birdhouse, wherever you want to call it.
I like the birdhouse.
And getting
I like the birdhouse. That's great.
Yeah. So that's a big win for Dan and his crew. Super stoked for him.
Well, I'm going to shout out Libero too. Nico Paula, 12 digs in that matchup. And I mean, defensively, he's been on fire all year long. And there's so many good Liberos in the nation. We don't get to mention all of them. So wanted to take that opportunity to give a shout out to Nico Paula.
Yeah, and then I got for Lewis, Sean Baggs, just I mean, especially the match I was going to talk about, but you contrast the two. But you have Ball State, they hit 296 against Lewis in that 5-set match. Sean Baggs has 5 stuff blocks within it, probably a few extra assists on top of that as well. But just being able to see the impact their blocking had on Ball State, and then you kind of transpose that to the Ball State Loyola match where Ball State hit, I don't know, 1,000. They were out of this world offensively. They seemed like they were killing every single ball and first ball transition any chance they had.
Yeah.
Well, I think then you got to transition it to the PFW match against Lewis, which I feel like we've all seen this time and time again, right? Lewis comes off of one of the biggest wins of the year, and PFW, after losing to Loyola, bounces back and serves up a dominating win over Lewis 2 nights later. And so, God, I love the MIVA, man. Like, it is there. At no point are you deciding, oh yeah, that team's got it in the bag. There's just no chance. And PFW is a team that we played earlier in this year. Got to watch them up close and personal. I think I revealed some serve and pass secrets for that group on this podcast right here. Now, granted, I did not spy on them. We were in Lindenwood. It's a glass, like, right? You could see through it. It's where we were asked to wait. I'm just saying.
Lindenwood, always up to no good.
I'm just saying.
He's on fire.
I'm not sure that's how that goes.
Well, Dr. Dre had it another way, but everybody got the reference.
I'm just saying, Donnie has that team rolling, man, and they are not afraid of anything. I mean, serve and pass. We're 2 hours out from a match, and Donnie has his guys taking 185 swings in a serve and pass, getting ready as if this is this is just another day in the office. So this team has no fear, man, and they came in against Lewis and just rolled. I mean, they held Lewis to 177, hitting 314 themselves, and Banner just doing a fantastic job, man. Banner was really, really lights out, and Logan Muir, and I mean, these guys have just been doing it all year long, and inconsistencies at moments, but coming up with some clutch wins, and obviously throwing another wrench in the MIVA standings.
Yeah, I'll shout out Carlo Huisden, freshman out there. I think he had 14 kills, something like that. Really, and watching the match back, really doing a good job as a freshman. And shout out to Donnie, bringing the group together year 2, having some kids of his own in there with basically a whole new lineup besides Muir. And those kids compete hard. We lost them earlier in the season in 5 at their place, and we swept them at home. But you can't sleep on Purdue Fort Wayne. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Lewis's huge win on Thursday, but that's not where you're going to say this is an automatic win coming in Fort Wayne. Those kids are playing hard, and I'd love to see that he's having some success in his second year with that program, and kind of have a short roster, small group of kids, but they're lights out, finding ways to find the floor. And Logan Muir, again, another kid. I don't know where they're feeding these kids with a cannon. Was it MVVC kid? Serving 70 plus again, and I don't understand, but they got some pieces that put it together. That's pretty cool to see.
And shout out to the alumni of the Dons. They're a great group that is very loyal and very supportive of their program. I know a number of them over the years, and just a really neat group of guys. So the Don faithful and the Don alumni, you guys, shout out to you guys for continuing that support.
Yep. All right. Another match. I'm hoping someone will drop an MPSF match. So we haven't even mentioned anything about the MPSF an hour in.
Well, because there's only 2 that mattered, and they didn't really matter. So it doesn't mean anything. So I don't know. I don't know if Brad's going to pull those up or not. If he does, great. And if not, then I'll mention them. But they didn't do anything. They didn't move the needle.
Well, you don't think the split in Provo is going to move any needles?
No. I listen. I have one of their players as my player of the week candidate. I won't mention which one, but BYU is good in Provo. They're good in Provo. The only thing it says is USC is a good team, but going up to Provo, it's like they have another gear. And so kudos to BYU for splitting that series, but it didn't really move the needle to me at all.
Yeah,
I'm
I
referring
think to
to
me it
BYU
was
USC this weekend, in case all of you are wondering. First night, a win by BYU 3-1. USC with a bounce back match, an equalizer on Saturday night, going 3-2 in dramatic fashion. So,
yeah, to me the interesting piece there is when you look at those two matches. Night one, when BYU beats USC, USC ends up hitting 179. So not great, but actually passed better. Which you think about traveling to Provo, you think about playing out there, and it's the serving and passing, which is kind of the toughest piece to get calibrated and get settled in. To where USC passed better and hit worse, and then night two when USC finds a way to win in five, they passed worse but hit better. So I think it's just really that offensive consistency from USC, and really, obviously, Dylan Klein's going to be Dylan Klein, and he's one of the, he's on the finalists of the top eight, but I think he's going to be more finalists within the top four or so, based on kind of what I would look at and what I would see. But it's kind of what can that offense do around him, and what are those other pieces, and how can they be consistent and sustain that in those roles that can help highlight him and allow him to kind of go do his thing.
Isn't there some kind of statistic about BYU wins like 85% of the games at BYU?
Yep.
Yeah, so to walk out there with a win from USC is pretty great, and that's that home court advantage that everybody's talking about. What Connor Oldani coming from GCU to BYU, dropping 18 kills on that night, and being at Provo, and man, that air, I can't breathe even thinking about it right now. So walking out with a win is a W in my book.
Well, it's Grand Canyon East because you got Trent Moser as well on that team. So
that's true. Kyle Zedeker's on the roster. They're making it happen. So
yeah, Woody had 26 kills, hit 452. I mean, that's pretty good. So listen, it's a good win. By no means am I trying to poo-poo any of those teams, but it didn't move the needle in terms of what's going on in the next couple of weeks up in Provo. So.
Yeah, I also agree where it's like, what does that really do to the rankings? Maybe USC drops one spot, maybe they stay. Like, yeah, it's not it'd be tough to figure out where that does for both USC and BYU in terms of that too.
Yeah, it's definitely not a needle mover, but I think that if you're USC, there were some struggles up there, and I think that they've had some really unfortunate stuff take place with their scheduling, right? They ended up dropping that one weekend, weren't able to replace it. They haven't had the same mileage as everybody else. And sometimes that can be really valuable, but sometimes that can be a real challenge. And I think they ran into on night two, they end up pulling Foley and find a way to survive with Roberts on the left. And things got real interesting, but they've had some inconsistencies on the right. And for the first time, they had a little bit of inconsistency on the left. And normally, throughout the course of the season, you start to see these things getting worked out early on. And I think just the way that the schedule has been for them, they haven't really been tested in situations like this a ton. So it's an interesting time to be losing some confidence if that does hinder them a little bit. And so it'll be interesting to see how these next couple of weeks look for that group.
What was the stat I heard one of the announcers say for the BYU match? This is the first non-Southern California match that USC has had all year long.
Yes.
Wow. That is stupid. Either kudos to you, Nygaard. I got to get on that train, or obviously the trip out to Hawaii or the match, those got a little screwed up. But holy smokes! Talk about sleeping in your own bed the entire season. That's a nice way to go.
Anything else on BYU USC? All right. Well, let's go to other matches. I had to put that MPSF in there. I felt like we had this. We're shutting them out for too long. But how about you, other panelists? Any other matches you want to jump on? No. Wow. Okay. Well, I'm going to throw another one out there, and I'm going to go against my rules. It's outside the top 20, but these stat lines caught my eye this weekend. First was a NEC athlete from Fairleigh Dickinson University, Carl Francis' team at FDU. Jamal Ellis Carballo had a monster offensive weekend. 23 kills on night two against University of Maryland Eastern Shore. And I believe he had 15 plus on night one. But he's been on fire all season. I just happen to see numbers and, shout out to Jamal Ellis Carballo. Great playing, and FDU in the thick of it, but I don't want to get too into it yet for the conference tournament. We'll just say they're near the top. And then the other match is a SIAC match between Larry Wraither's Fort Valley State guys and Edward Waters. Don't know if you guys saw this. Let's see. Where is it here? Yeah. Logan Rogers, 11 aces for Fort Valley State. And for Edward Waters, DeAndre Williams, 11 aces. 22 aces for 2 players alone.
Ooh.
That is what we call in the business slightly above average.
So
and Rob, just really quickly on your Farley Dickinson FDU, just a huge shout out, FDU Carl France. They had a player, Sina Sibari, who's struggling with some health issues, and is just an absolutely all-world human being. One of the very best, the best people, players. I've been lucky enough to interact with him, and I know, but he has a kind of the Sina Strong, and a lot of our guys here at UC San Diego are friends with him, and they've kind of rallied around that. And I know they did some form of honoring him with the senior night and just the impact he's had on that program as they've been getting going. So just wanted to give Sina and Sina Strong a big shout out there.
Yeah, and I think Jamal Ellis took 198 swings in both nights combined. So he just signed a new NIL deal with Ben Gay. He'll be taking that sponsorship to the bank. But ready for this? They lost to UMES, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, on the second night. Dr. Anita Brockman and her team figuring things out. Listen, that conference is going to be nuts because you got St. Francis in first, Fairleigh Dickinson in second, and UMES is in third. And those are all 3 teams that are fighting like heck right now. So the conference play is going to be fun. It's going to be a fun year.
I feel like we have to transition into conference play. But on Brad's point, though, I wanted to add, if you want to see it, it's Sina Sibari actually has a feature story on UCLA Health where he's being treated. It's a great story of his recovery and his journey with cancer. So if you feel so inclined, please do visit it. It's a wonderful article, and you love hearing these stories, and hoping the best for, I guess it's a senior season. They did a senior night for him.
I think they honored him senior night. He's not competing. He graduated from there already.
Okay. So, but yeah, great story. So if we don't have any other matches, we can talk about the postseason setup final week of play. Are you guys ready to do that? All right. Well, 3 conferences are complete with Nickie's conference, one of them with the brackets all set up. So, Nickie, why don't you have at it discussing the MIVA conference tournament?
Like I said, pool play doesn't matter because at any point right now, anyone can beat anyone. I know our match this weekend, we get a rematch playing Ohio State. The Lewis heading down to Lindenwood, and Lindenwood's a tough place to play. I know, Theo, you've been there. Brad, you played there last year. They serve tough, they serve well, they're sending bombs from that standpoint. I'm excited. Obviously, I'm trying to prepare. As soon as I get off this podcast, I'm going to start preparing for this week, getting ready to go, getting the kids hyped up together. But don't sleep on MIVA Madness right now, because if you think that everybody's going to that next round, that's not happening. You have no idea what's coming out of this, and you have no idea who's going to shine in that standpoint. Because if you look at we talked about the Lewis PFW match, Cam Hoying has been crushing it. He was 5-4 on 20 in that match, and then we had 2 kids with almost 30 kills from PFW. So it's going to be interesting, and it actually is like what's nervous and excited is the same emotion here. But I will say I'm looking forward to getting going and seeing what everybody's doing. That my monitor screens will be ready to go for the weekend.
Well, kudos to the MIVA for starting their conference tournament play before the Big West even gets halfway through their conference season.
Hey,
So
this is only round one. Only round one on Saturday. We go Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday out here.
I echo your sentiments. I mean, you got McKendree, Ohio State, you got Lindenwood, Lewis, you got PFW, Loyola. All of those teams have split their season series. And then you got Ball State and Northern Kentucky, and everybody's going to probably say that's the easiest match if you're gonna go that direction. But you nailed it earlier, Nicki, that that team is not going down quietly. And, anybody can beat anybody in the playoff season. That part is good. I think the question mark for all of these other teams is health, because a lot of those matches that were won or lost, depending on which side of the coin you're on, were you all healthy, or were you missing your one player or two players that carry the load? And I think you can argue that in all of those season matches, there might have been a player here and there that wasn't going, and all of a sudden your team hiccups and the other team steals it from you or takes it from you, rightfully so. It's going to be now who can be 100% healthy and who has got that momentum carrying into the next week's matches, because I think that's going to be the difference maker. And you're right, it doesn't matter about home and away. It's nice. It's a nice advantage. It's a percentage point of comfort level, if you will. But people are beating people in other people's gyms, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
And I'll share that sentiment of I like our format, which is different than anyone else. It's that Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, and I know we're accounting for travel, but who's the freshest or fresh like right now? And you have a week to prepare, and then you have kind of a week to travel, and it's just that little block of time from the semifinal to the final. It means a lot instead of boom, boom, boom. When I was coaching the women's team, it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You got to be ready to go. You could go 5-5-5, and if you're not in condition or have that health, you might be in the worst position to play. So Miva playoffs are long and drawn out, but I appreciate that for that sentiment.
I have a very hot take that actually is cold. I think we're gonna be it's gonna be top seeds moving on after this week across the board here. So it's the most un-Miva way to go about postseason play. So that's why I feel like it's hot. But I think it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 advance, and we get a chalk semifinal for like maybe the first time in Miva volleyball history.
You're gonna get so much hate mail, Brad. I can't wait
I was
for it.
like, I'm just gonna shake my head and nod and smile and be pretty and do all this
Wow.
stuff. Yeah, I'm trying to
Wow.
think. I think there was one year, I think 2022, 2021, one or three or somewhere where it was 1, 2, 3, 4, and that was probably the last time. But it hasn't been that way for a while. We've beat a couple people when we've been the 7 and the 6, and then Purdue Fort Wayne in 2022 did the same thing. It's typically been all over the place.
Yeah, that
Ooh.
hot take was lukewarm at best.
Yeah. Well, Miva is one to watch. And what were the dates of that, Nikki? You said it's a Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday.
Or this Saturday, everybody's either at 6 or 7 p.m. Next Wednesday, highest seed hosts, highest remaining seeds, and then the next following Saturday.
Now, does the Miva have an exclusive with like ESPN Plus or a streaming just for our if people want to watch? It's hard to navigate this, especially this time of the year.
Yeah, highest seed remaining because if it's, I think Ohio State's the only one on Big Ten Plus. Everyone else has ESPN Plus. Lewis is on YouTube. We're on our own stream on at GLVC Network from our school, but it's everyone's host site. And Lindenwood's on ESPN Plus as well.
Okay.
So,
Well, we'll get some postings. There's some great resources out there between 900 square feet off the block. They'll have where everything will be streaming at. So be sure to follow those along. Let's go to another completed conference, and that would be the SIAC. Fort Valley State winning out. Tournament matchups all set up. Fort Valley State, 3-time SIAC champions. It'll be Edward Waters, a 4 seed, versus Kentucky State, the 5th, in that opening round. And then the winner of that's going to play Fort Valley State in a semi. And the other semi, number 3, Benedict versus number 2, Central State. Larry Wraither doing a outstanding job, but he's got quite the power punch of an outside hitter in Isaiah Fed. Really, you can see him taking the mantle of leadership and stepping up his game for his final swan song season.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna do my own hot take, which is nuclear hot, and that is Fort Valley State's gonna win their 4th in a row. There it is. You heard it here first.
I'm going to give some shout outs to some other guys that I know. Isaiah Fed is the shining star, and he has done amazing things for this program. But the entrance of Keaton Long, he is long, physical, athletic, great jumper. Freshman Jamari Griffin. I try to do my best and follow where I can as a fan, and I'm a huge fan of Larry. The Wizard. himself and what he's done there, and having kids that will buy into that system and just play hard. And those two, I don't want those two guys to get lost in the shuffle behind Isaiah Fed, but Fed, Griffin, Long, that's going to take you some places.
Great take. Anyone else?
No, Jay stole
with
my
me?
hot take.
Dang it.
Theo, anything to add?
No, I mean, I think these guys said it well. I think Fort Valley is obviously the favorite. The question will be is if they are able to come out of this the victors. All of the years, they've obviously had 3 years in a row where they've had opportunities to get to the tournament and have gained the experience there. Do they have enough to get their first win that brings them into the NCAAs legitimately? I think that's what Larry has been working so hard to accomplish. You look at his schedule this year, that team's 8-0 in conference. They're 14-12 because they scheduled the toughest teams in the country. And he's done that for a reason. They're trying to prepare for what the future holds for that group. And so, yeah, Isaiah Fed is obviously the front runner for them. And you got I think it's Mbaye, who's the other guy who I think has been kind of electric this year. And yeah, I think we'll see if they're poised enough to get themselves in a position to contend for the NCAAs.
Yeah. All right, shift on over. Conference Carolinas complete conference play with Belmont Abbey reigning supreme while Mount Olive gets the second place finish. Tournament starts April 15th. 4-seed North Greenville versus number 5 Barton, and number 3 Lees McRae versus number 6 Emmanuel. Semis is on the 18th. The 4-5 winner will play Belmont Abbey, and the 3-6 winner will play Mount Olive, with the finals being on the 19th. So, what do we know about the Conference Carolinas panel?
Something to keep an eye on here. You got Emmanuel's just coming off beating Mount Olive at Mount Olive, behind Aiden Finney, 26 kills, hit 400, 3 aces this past weekend. So they're a 6 seed to keep an eye on, as they're, I would assume kind of playing some of their best volleyball right now, taking on Lees McRae in that 6-3 matchup. And then if they win, they go on to play Mount Olive again, where Mount Olive's going to want some redemption, and Emmanuel's going to have a lot of confidence going into that matchup. But I think Belmont Abbey's was probably the favorite going into it, but Belmont Abbey and Mount Olive have had some good battles over the past few years.
I think you're going to see Mount Olive and Belmont Abbey in the finals. I think you're seeing in the Conference Carolinas a similar type situation of what's going on in the SIAC, which is you've got guys that know what it looks like and feels like to be in that tournament and have been successful. And I made the mention early in this season, this could be a year, because the tournament expansion is going on, that you could see a SIAC team or a Conference Carolina team win the first round of the NCAA tournament. I would not be surprised. Belmont Abbey is good. They run a very fast tempo offense. Fort Valley State's got a 3 or 4 headed monster down there, and they've got experience. But I think Belmont Abbey is the team to beat this year in the Conference Carolinas. And I'm excited to see what Derek and his crew can do down there.
Yeah, I haven't had a ton of time to watch the majority of these teams, aside from Belmont Abbey. And Belmont Abbey is then the team that obviously Jay would be on a 15-game win streak if it wasn't for them. And they were able to challenge George Mason and put them in a position to get a W. And so that's a team I would say is definitely a dark horse. I've seen the way that they play. They are incredibly scrappy. They can ball control. They've got some pieces that can be incredibly effective at the net. And so, yeah, I think Belmont Abbey comes out of this, and I think Jay is right. I think they got a legitimate shot at getting their first win.
We had the luxury of playing both those teams, just the privilege of playing both those teams. Belmont Abbey at home and Mount Olive at Charleston, and they're tough. Belmont Abbey took us to 5. Caden Day, El Haddad in the middle. I think El Haddad is hitting 421 on the season. I think people are sleeping on what production this middle can do. They've run a really nice offense, and that tempo is something that you're not seeing a lot. I love, obviously, we're a tempo team, but they matched it. Mount Olive, I've followed them over the course of the year. I really like their setter. They have some, I guess you could say, older pieces in the middle, but it's what team are you going to get out of them? they are a team that can push somebody to the brink, or they are a team that might come down. But I'm hoping in playoff season that, it's going to be a battle to see who's going to come out. Is it Belmont Abbey again, the historic champion, or is it Mount Olive? So I think it's going to be a tough fight.
Oh, funny story. We were watching some Hawaii, or I was watching Hawaii video, and we see the Mount Olive setter, like he was like flying in to come and block from off the court. I was like, what? It like just looked weird. So I went back and watched it, and he dove and almost flew over the scores table, saves the ball, they extend the rally, and then Hawaii ends up setting the bic, and he's like on all his momentum's going back into the court, jumping back into the center, and he flies into his middle blocker, and Hawaii got a kill, but it was just one of those plays like, damn, like that kid is a hard worker, and like he's been setting really well for them the past 2 years. But it was a funny little story.
He plays hard. He plays hard. We had the privilege of playing them, like I said, at Charleston, and after the game, he was like, "Coach, can I check you out? Can I talk to you real quick?" And I was like, "Oh God, what did I do? Was I cussing too much, yelling at kids, fighting them? I don't know." And he's like, "It kind of asked, how could we be better? We saw you scouting us hard," and I was like, the balls on that kid to say, "Hey, head coach, I want to talk to you about getting better with our group." And we had a young man that transferred there that I spoke really nice things about us. And it's cool to see those young men have that level of success and want to grow and want to grow the game and really challenge the status quo. So shout out Mount Olive Setter.
Jackson Leahy, right? That's his name?
Yeah, Jackson Leahy.
I'm going off
Florida
the top of my
kid.
head. Yeah.
From Florida.
Yeah, Florida. Really, that's really cool to see when you want to get better and grow.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to our other conferences, which, Jay, you got to patent this term because we're finishing the week with the Battle of the Potty matchups to finish off the other conferences. And because, Jay, you made that term up and it's gone semi-viral here, it's the Battle of the Ones and Twos. That's right. If you have children or you go to the bathroom, you're familiar with it. The Battle of the Toilet, ones and twos.
So to the gentleman or gentlewoman, if you will, I don't know who this person is, who is making these meme pictures from ChatGPT and putting them on Volley Talk. I want you to put it as battle toilet, bowl sponsored by Toto Toilets, but David Carradine from Kung Fu, and I want Pav to look like the old master with the Chinese handlebar mustache, and I want to have him with the pebble in his hand and me trying to snatch it, like make some fun out of that thing. But yeah, it's a big matchup with lots of implications, but there's going to be a ton of alumni that are coming back. I got invited to go to a celebration on Friday night with all the alumni to celebrate Pav and his career. But there's so many different storylines that go on with it. It's fight for the regular season championship. It's fight for the right to host. It's Pav's last match as a regular season match as a head coach. There's just so many things going on. Senior night, like there's just all kinds of stuff going on. And part of my discussion with my guys is there's going to be a lot of extracurricular noise. It's how we drown it out and walk in and just do our business and not worry about all the stuff going on the periphery. But there's going to be a lot of it. I would not be surprised to see the rec hall close to being sold out. I would not be surprised. And rightfully
the other
so.
thing is the depending on results from that match, you still have NJIT knocking on your door as well.
Well, and they're going up against Sacred Heart this weekend twice. And Sacred Heart took Penn State to 5 this prior weekend. Sacred Heart's got some players, and they have a kid who transferred from Hawaii, a lefty outside hitter who's got an absolute cannon for an arm. They got a middle blocker who moves around well. Their setter does a nice job. He's from Australia. Their liberos are always super strong. It's just a team that just hasn't had the success conference-wise, but they're a good team. And I think people sleep on these traditionally maybe not powerful teams from years past, but you put them in some gyms with some good teams, they can do some damage. And so I'm hoping that Sacred Heart can pull something out because it'd be nice to have a first round bye if we don't make it past this weekend with 2 wins. But even if we don't, I still like what my guys are doing. And I know everybody else is excited because everybody's beating everybody just about in our conference. So it's going to be a fun tournament for sure.
Yeah. Anything on the EIVA tournament and what could sort out, let's say, by the end of the week?
I love Pav. I love all this, but I want to see some parity. I'm fan Nickie Sanlin, not Coach Nickie, wants to see a good matchup here this weekend. And I was checking out the EIBA standings, and I'm like, Jay gets 2 wins. We're talking about something different right now, and it's going to be fun to watch. This is the best time of the year. This is our March Madness. This is April action is what we're seeing.
Jay, is it a home and home this weekend, or is it both at Mason?
Both are at Penn State.
Oh, they're at Penn State. Okay. Woo. Anyone
Yeah,
else to add?
I think either way, it's I think we're going to see Penn State and George Mason play 3 times over the next 2 weeks or so, which is exciting. So I think there's going to be a lot that we'll find out about these teams, but I think both have shown to be pretty strong, pretty formidable throughout the IBA play with how they're playing and kind of all aspects of their game. And obviously NGIT, and there's just really any team can beat anyone in that conference. But yeah, and I think I'm excited to get to watch those games and get to see, 2 good teams duke it out over this weekend for that top seed. And I hopefully you got that reference too there, Jay.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I think normally you have matchups like this that are really just based on volleyball. You obviously hear it in Jay's voice, him talking about it, but the emotion that's coming into this match for these coaches is much bigger. And so the guarantee that we're all going to have, I guarantee you this is going to be some great volleyball. So I'm excited to tune in. Definitely going to be watching these ones. So I'm fired up, man. Good luck, Jay.
See, I like the apprentice versus master matchup. And I'm talking the Anakin Skywalker would be Jay, and an Obi-Wan Kenobi would be Pav.
The older one is the Kung Fu reference. It's the young, the master holding the pebble, snatch pebble from master hand, and he can't.
That
do
was
it.
1977, Jay. Our demographic.
Yeah, I was born in 1969, Rob. I mean, I'm a little bit older than the average bear.
At least the newer Star Wars was like in the early 2000s.
It's too new. I don't even know what you're talking about. Kids aren't watching those things these days.
I like to reference the Karate Kid.
All right, there you go.
I feel like people would know that.
1984 is a nice, even space for us to land on, guys. And just to plug it in there, filmed in our gym. So, let's bring it all back around.
That is true.
Good old Valley Karate Championship.
Good old Northridge State.
Well, let's go to another potty matchup, or what do you call it, Jay? The Toto toilet
battle toilet.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you, Jay?
Bowl sponsored by Toto Toilets.
Okay.
What, am I frozen?
We lost you for a second there. You're good now.
Am I back now? It's Battle Toilet Bowl, number 1 versus number 2, sponsored by Toto Toilets.
Okay. Well, you can have the tagline, but it's the NEC that I'm moving towards, because our friend Carl France taking on another friend, Rummy. St. Francis, number 1 in the NEC versus FDU, number 2. And conference seeding at stake as well. Yeah.
I'm just going to throw this out there. There are good teams up and down that conference. I think the 2 best teams are Fairleigh Dickinson and St. Francis. Fairleigh Dickinson goes as Jamal Ellis goes, and St. Francis goes because their kids are fighting for their last Division I season. There's a little extra motivation. They've got some really good players. Nathan Zini on the right side is really good. There's Sutter. Am I out again?
You're good.
Am I here?
You're good.
No? Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyways,
you're good.
St. Francis, where did I cut out at?
Nathan Zini.
Thank you. So Nathan Zini, they're opposite. They got a good setter who's transferring to Penn State next year. They got a smaller outside hitter who moves it around a lot. It's going to be those 2 teams in the finals. I think St. Francis is going to win it all.
All right. Thoughts, NEC, rest of the panel.
I'm here for the rum shaker. That's what I want. That's what I want to see. Last one out. I love to see it for him. Those kids are playing hard, so I'm rooting for him. Love you, Carl, though.
Brad, Theo, anything else?
No, Jay, Nickie nailed it.
Perfect.
All right. Well, with that, because Theo's got other responsibilities. He's got 10 minutes. So we're going to go right to Big West, which, it looks like Hawaii could be the top of the conference. We still have 1 week in a play. They host Theo's Matadors and then Long Beach State, a home and home series versus Irvine. And then Brad's got one more against Santa Barbara, the lone match of the week. What's going to happen to the Big West, or what are your thoughts on the Big West, folks?
Yeah,
in the
I mean,
Big
just
West?
for standings perspectives, it's Hawaii needs to win one match to clinch first place this weekend. Second and third will come down to the Long Beach UC Irvine matchup and what that looks like. And then fourth and fifth place is UC San Diego and UC Santa Barbara. Whoever wins on Saturday night will be the 4th seed. Whoever loses will be the 5th seed. We already know we're playing each other, so it doesn't matter a ton. And then 6th will be Northridge. So there's really not a ton of ambiguity or things to be figured out here throughout this weekend. It's more of where the dust's all going to settle.
Yeah. Well, Theo, let me ask you this, since Brad broke it down so succinctly, does the venue make a big difference? Because obviously with Provo hosting the MPSF, yes, that does play certain factors. But what about a place like the Brenna Event Center?
Yeah, well, I think it brings some neutrality to this season that Hawaii's having right now. Historically, at least the last couple seasons, we've been on the island. Hawaii has been able to compete in that Big West tournament with home court advantage and some of the best fans in volleyball behind them. And so this time they got to get away from the island. They got to be the one team that really has the farthest distance to travel in order to compete in that one. And so I think that part's going to be really interesting. And then whether Irvine is able to move up a spot against Long Beach this week. I think if that ends up happening, that kind of shakes things up quite a bit. And obviously with Tread hopefully getting better, that gives Hawaii an opportunity to potentially clinch. But that Big West tournament being in Irvine, I think shakes things up tremendously.
Yeah. All right. Great breakdown. Final weekend of matches in Big West, which leaves the lone conference remaining, MPSF, 1 week to play. And who could have scripted that any better? Both UCLA, Pepperdine, 11-1 in the MPSF home and home series coming up to finish out the week. High drama. What do you guys think?
Pepperdine has USC this week, and then UCLA's got
they both have big
BYU.
matches. My bad.
Yeah,
but
which I think is the
11-1. That's
in the MPSF.
USC.
Oop, did you freeze? Was Jay saying?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Got a little freeze there. So UCLA and Pepperdine 11-1, and then some big series to finish out the weekend. What are you guys' thoughts on the MPSF?
It'll be interesting. I think the Pepperdine USC matchup is really interesting there, and then BYU continuing really not so much standings wise. I don't think it'll affect too much, but in terms of their at-large bid implications, if they can get one at UCLA, that would be massive for them in terms of NCAA tournament at large.
I think the 4 teams will be UCLA, USC, Pepperdine, and BYU. And BYU only because they're hosting the tournament. Out of there, I think it's going to be obviously where the seeding falls. But I think UCLA and Pepperdine are probably the 2 best teams right now and most consistent. And those should be the 2 teams in the finals. That's my call.
I agree with you on that take.
Yeah, I think the Pepperdine USC matchup has the most implications. I think that's really going to be kind of where everything is decided as far as this conference. And Pepperdine finds a way to win both of those. I think that's a huge statement piece. And then obviously we all know with BYU hosting, they have a shot. We know the win percentage there. We know that they're capable of getting some big wins in Provo. So yeah, I think the MPSF, there's a lot more left to decide in terms of how this whole thing is going to shake out. UCLA obviously being the favorites, and we know that if everything goes as planned, they come out unscathed and they win this tournament.
Yeah. Just so correct my error, BYU's at UCLA for 2 to finish out the season, and then you got the SC Pepperdine series, which there's always a lot of good volleyball. It's how many screens do you have access to watch it, and what membership service do you have? So
all of them.
With that, well, we'll post Jay's login information on the on Instagram. With that, I know we kind of skipped over it quickly. I know Theo's got to jump off, but players of the week, we're going to start with Nickie first. Don't feel limited to one because as you get close to the end, I want to acknowledge people. It's been a great season. So,
Brad, I'm taking your guy, Sonny himself, with that performance on the weekend. The two matches that, it's always tough to play Hawaii. It's always, such a battle, and I am so impressed. Brad Rostrider, Stan right here, just really impressed with what you've been doing there, and I want to give Seba a shout out for that performance on Saturday. Uh, and then, as I mentioned earlier, I will give Brendan Luthane Tendy his shout out for the comeback. You have an ankle injury, and then you have some level of determination. Thankfully, it was not a season-ending injury. To come back very quickly and perform for your team and say, like, I'm not going down without a fight. That's pretty cool to see and have some production. So, Tendy, Sani, there you go.
all right.
I feel like I have to jump in here in the sake of throwing salt, or what I was thinking more fitting for Nickie is throwing sprinkles and dropping some sprinkles for you. Now I feel bad slightly, but I think it's out of love that my player of the week, Shane Wetzel, 23 kills, 6 aces, hit 372.
I'm logging off right now. God.
And then I'm also shouting out Aiden Finney, Emmanuel, 26 kills, 3 aces, hit 400. Awesome performance there by Mr. Finney.
No, Wetzel did great. He was crushing it this weekend, and it was, as the opponent, not great to see. But the Miva's tough. I expect nothing but greatness from Birch and his crew. They're not going to lay down without a fight. So I'll take my sprinkles, Brad.
Well, let's go to Jay, then we can send Theo off to his next engagement.
Give Theo the next one. I'll go last.
Okay.
Jay, I appreciate that courtesy, man. Yeah, so my two are Cole Harkey in their 3-1 win over Stanford. He hit 429. Dude has just been so solid all year long. Has really come into his own. And I'm going to keep it in the opposite position and go with William Darcy as well. Hit 400 and 500 against us. And I mean, both those guys are just so solid right now. And coming into the end of the season, you need an opposite who can put the ball away, and those two guys are doing it at a high level.
Yep. All right, Jay.
All right. I got two that nobody has. I got Victor Nowak, NJIT opposite from Poland. First night, 16 kills, 235, 17 kills, 306 the second night, 2 wins over Charleston. Good wins by them. And I'm going to give a little love to probably somebody who hasn't gotten any love all year long. Outside hitter Trevor Herget for BYU. Kid had 12 kills, hit 421 on the first night in the win against USC for BYU. His brother slinging the rock to him all night long, which is fun. And second night, he had 14 kills, hit 273. I'm going to give a little love up there to the Mormon land.
All right. All excellent calls, which we're going to go to our, we'd say, what are you watching? But we're going to watch everything this weekend. Let's be real. This is
Before you get into it, Rob, I'm going to jump. Nickie, it was a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Theo, always good having you.
Safe travels, Theo.
Thank you, sir.
Best of luck in Hawaii as well. All right, which brings us to Jay's quick hits or hot take, whichever you want to take him as. He sent some good ones, and I'm going to add one on, I think, just because we do have some extra time here. But the first question, you guys ready?
Yep.
I will go last again, as always. I will go last.
Do we make Nickie go first to be put in the hot seat, or let Brad give her some extra time?
Nickie can pick if she wants first or second.
I am a woman of the people, so you let me know. I
All right. Well, you just don't want them jumping on your coattails when you drop that gold nugget.
Listen. In the words of Queen Latifah, ladies first.
Thank you, Jay. I appreciate that.
There we go.
All right, here we go. First question. What separates championship teams from the rest right now? Nickie.
I'm not going to just say talent. It's going to say fight. I think we are in a generation right now where as soon as things get hard, kids quit. Bang, all those things that are happening. Who are some kids that are going to punch them in the mouth? They're going to punch right back. That are going to say, like, hey, we might be down 0-2, but we're going to reverse sweep, or it's 5-set battle of 23, 25, 29, 27. It doesn't matter. I think that's the difference of champions. Kids that have some integrity, some grit, Yeah, talent helps. There's a lot of talented guys out here in the country, but some no quit fighting, showing up every day. That's what championship teams, that's what you see. Kids that aren't afraid to have a tough conversation and say like, "Hey, let's make it happen and what we can talk about it later."
Yep. Brad.
Killing the ball in all phases. So in system, medium system, out of system.
Okay.
All right.
In the vein of what Nickie talked about, my two things are resiliency and toughness. Toughness is your breaking point. Where do you as a player, as a human, as a teammate decide that that's enough, I can't do anymore? That's your breaking point. And the guys that survive longer are the ones that have a lot longer, tougher point or a breaking point. And then just resiliency. She's right. It's like, yeah, not everybody is undefeated. Everybody's lost somewhere. So how do you figure out ways to get better and get after it again and get back up and dust it off? So those are my two things.
All right. Next question in our hot take moments or Jay's quick hits. Would you rather have an older, more experienced team or a younger, more talented team during the playoffs? Nickie.
Give me those old dudes, man. The old guys, they're going to tell you what they think. They're going to tell you if you're wrong, if you're right, and they know the drill. Like, yeah, everybody I think in this group has had both ends of the spectrum of like we start off young. I think Jay, that's kind of where you're at right now, and then we have some older guys. My team's a little older this year. They know the drill. They are player led. They're running the show. This is a hot take. I miss COVID players because I had a kid that was here for 6 years that was tough as nails, that knew what he was doing, maybe a little too much. He told me what he thought a lot, but I appreciated it. That means he's got an opinion. He cares about the team and the group. So that's my hot take. I want old heads, let them rip. They've been here for 35 years. I'm ready to go.
I'm going young pups for two reasons. One, keeps your window open a little bit longer. If you're at the same point and you got a younger team, uh, that's really good for this year and even better for next year too. And then second is the young guys still laugh at my jokes. The old guys, they hear the same jokes over and over again.
Well played. Well played, Brad. Yeah, I gotta agree with Nickie, but there's something to be said about the young pups, right? And I say this from peace and love. They're too dumb and stupid to understand what it all means. They're just going out there and bawling. And there's something really poetically beautiful about that, where you look at them frolicking and doing whatever they do, and if they're successful, you just kind of go, wow, that was pretty cool to watch. But if I had my choice, give me the old grizzled veterans that have been through it and know what it feels like, and they want to get dirty and they want to get after it. Those are the guys I roll with all the time.
All right. On to question 3. Which matters more now during a playoff run? Practice intensity or rest and recovery? Practice intensity. Okay, go for it, Nickie.
I'm gonna say a little bit of both because now we're in the era of the season where it's like efficiency, hard efficiency. Get in, get out, get done, not skimping on we're still at this point in our season, we're still doing skill. We still have to get better every day. It's not just rolling the balls out, but it's also not a 2.5 hour practice. So yes, intensity, but we are a little old. The old heads, they need a little more time. They need the Normatec to get the rollout. So I'm in a little bit of both. I'm a 50-50 stage of I'm never gonna skimp on practice to a fault, but we do have an older group. That's maybe where those young pups come in, Brad. They don't need to stretch, they don't need dynamic. They're just kind of like, I'm good. I just put my shoes on.
Yep. I got rest and recovery here. Yeah, especially I think more so like obviously there's the body, but I think mental, like if you're competing on a Friday, Saturday, or a Thursday, Saturday, like you need a little reset, right? And if we're going full intensity Monday through Saturday, it can really wear on you over the course of the season.
Well, for a big West tournament, that's gonna be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday potentially. So
yeah,
oh yeah,
that's what our tournament is. It gets tiring. I'm with Nickie on this. It's a little of both. It's rest and recovery is very important, especially if you have the same group that's been playing the majority of the time over the course of the season. But the intensity does not go down. I'm still getting a cart of balls when a guy doesn't get after it. I'm still making him run for the amount of points in between winning and losing team scores. Like I'm doing all that stuff. It's just we're not doing it for 2.5 hours. We're doing it for an hour, 15, 30 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Final question by Jay. I do emphasize by Jay because I'm going to drop my last one. What's one thing you emphasize more in April than in January?
I'm a heavy book listener right now in season. That's my learning moment. I listen a lot to different or I won't say podcasts, audiobooks. And one of the things that resonated this year is you can't control the outcome. You can only control your effort, your intensity, your execution. And when as coaches, and I'm an emotional one, I'm an emotional coach. I wear everything on my sleeve. That really set the tone of where let's take this back. I still get pissed off. Let's just say that. But but in the same sense, it's like we can't control as much as we say we're going to win, we're going to do this, we're going to win. You can't control that. And that's something from the beginning of the season to now, and having the guys help us stay on the process of like, hey, we still have to worry about the process, not the outcome. That's something that we try to keep doing right now. And it's hard, especially when you're in conference tournament time, but reminders, we can't control the outcome. We can only control us.
Yeah. Brad.
Yeah, I think for me, it's in January, there's so much about like scheduling, whether it be like with us traveling and missing class and like just your January, even February schedule is so sporadic, at least in the Big West for us, Jay, sorry. Where we're traveling, we're going different places, non-conference, playing on Tuesdays. For this time of year, like they get pretty programmed. Like they know the schedule a lot more, right? So it's a lot more of like the individually finding that rhythm within the schedule of Big West play, right? Understanding like, hey, we'll play on Saturday and then we'll have 3 matches the following week. So understanding what we need to do to prepare for that. So just kind of knowing and understanding what's ahead.
Yeah.
Nickie, I got a podcast or a book, The Confident Mind. It's a really good one. I'll shoot you a link to that. I may have the title wrong for some reason. I thought, anyways, regardless. At the beginning of the year, we're very process oriented and trying to do, fix our fundamentals and make sure we get everything dialed in. At this point of the year, we're not recreating the wheel. And so it's all about not forgetting the little jobs that you have to do when you're not on the ball, and just making sure that we understand that we're a big unit on the court. We're not just individuals. So those are probably the 2 different things I'm focusing on.
Yeah. Final question from me, unbeknownst to Jay and the rest of the panelists. As we enter the final week of play and conference tournaments, what dark horse team do you pick that's not in your conference?
All right. I don't know if it's a dark horse, but I was giving Jackson Leahy a shout out. Mount Olive. Let's ride.
Ooh,
Nice.
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Brad?
I'm going. I mean, I in my eyes, I think it'd be depending on what you say for dark horse. Like, are we saying winning the conference tournament?
I don't know. I leave it up to interpretation.
I'm saying
Pretty good
Loyola.
performance.
Loyola. I think they'll get to the NCAA tournament and they'll get something done in the NCAA tournament. Loyola, Chicago.
Jake?
You know what I'm gonna say? Northridge. Because Northridge is gonna pick somebody off, and then they're gonna ride that momentum, and then they might be in the finals of the Big West. Like I'm making that call right now. Northridge.
All right. Excellent stuff. That's why I love these hot takes / Jay's quick hits. And with that, we conclude a very long episode, 307 of College Volleyball Weekly, Week 15 recap. Guests, well, hopefully you'll come on more often if we can get you on. Nickie Sanlin of McKendree, Queen of Everything, Director of Everything at McKendree. And Brad Rothsteiner, head coach, UC San Diego. Jay Hosick of George Mason. Had to leave early. Theo Edwards of CSUN and Dan Friend, who's absent this week. And we're hoping to get a couple other extra guests here before the end of the year, just especially with Pav retiring and some other teams have reached out. I'm definitely want to try and get them on, but I appreciate all your time, especially this week, almost 2-hour episode, but a lot to talk about this week. And best of luck to you in your matches this week, everyone on the screen. And, looking forward to a finish that's going to be insane here of regular season play and the kickoff of conference tournaments.
Thanks for listening to College Volleyball Weekly. Be sure to follow Rob Aspero at the Rob on the Mic on Instagram and at Rob on the Mic on Twitter.